Today is Thursday, May 29th, 2026. My name is Terry Morgan, and we are here to talk about and practice a little bit of Wudang Qigong. I'm going to work on the second set this morning. This is set 2, Pushing the Mountain. And I've just noticed that my lighting is not what it should be, so I'm going to fix it. This is the bonus for being live here. That you get to see me adjust the lighting. It's a one-woman shop here, so that's what happens. All right, so anyway, this class is focused on study. This is the idea that the person who is beginning to learn has certain things they have to be able to comprehend, develop. The teacher has to tell them, but this class is focused on the student. Tomorrow I'm going to focus on the teacher's perspective. And Sunday is the philosophy that goes with a lot of what I'm teaching. I am focused on the idea of heart, Shin, and the connection to what we do in practice, as well as to the philosophical traditions and definitions for Shin. In practice, we want to quiet the heart and quiet the mind so that we cultivate that quiet, that we learn to become still, that as we're practicing, there are no disturbances, that interior quiet that we develop becomes stronger and stronger as we practice. And little by little, we develop the skill to simply be there, I guess is a good way to say it. In set 2 of Wudang Qigong, we're working on that today, Pushing the Mountain, Tui Shangle. That's the basic set. I'm going to show it, I'm going to talk about it at length, and the idea here, one of the things to pay attention to in this particular set is what we're doing with the legs. In the first set, it's my morning. It'll be all right. I need to get up a little earlier. In the first set, standing, feet about shoulder width apart. Pull up through the center, press down, bend the knees a little bit. Just a little bit, not a lot. No. The focus in the first set is to circulate the chi through the small heavenly circle, the little one, right? And to develop the coordination between the movement and the breath. That coordination needs to be there for every exercise, every form, every set that we do. That's why it's foundation. In the second set, we begin to develop strength. Pushing the mountain. The names make a difference, and the names in the original language make a huge difference. In dance, the language of dance is French, mostly. Plie, tendu, élevé, port de bras. That language is French. It's not Spanish. It's not that people don't teach in other languages, but the names of the movements, as I learned them, were in French. The names of the movements for Qigong are in Chinese. And it makes a difference for how we understand what we're doing in the sets, as well as to the underlying meaning of what we're going to do. In the third set, Hufegel, wild goose flying. It gives you a reference, the name gives you a reference for what the movement should do, and an image for how to think about what you're doing in the move. It's pushing the mountain. What might we be doing? Pushing the mountain. Twig. Push away. Shan, mountain. Gong, exercise. Tui shan gong. Knowing how this naming works, knowing how the names help us to understand what it is we're doing, is something that took me a little bit of time to learn. I didn't want to learn the name. I didn't want to learn names. I just, no. It's a bother. You're confusing me with those names. Every time you repeat the name and then you say this and you say that, and I have to process the Chinese and it doesn't register and I can't do the move, and I don't want to learn that. It wasn't something that I should have a decision about. That was my teacher telling me that I needed to learn these things and I should listen. Eventually I did, and it became incredibly clear to me why he wanted me to learn the names, why he put emphasis on learning the names, and why it mattered to be able to break down each movement into its smaller components, sometimes with naming, because particularly in Bagua, each of the palm changes has within it a series of smaller moves. Each of those moves matters. If he hadn't insisted that I learn the names, I would not fully understand what those small movements are, and I would not understand what they're doing there. That makes a difference, that idea that the teacher's going to give something. The student, whether they want it or not, needs to learn. This person's telling me these things. Why? Why? Is it easy for me to learn this? No. Well, too bad. That's something that comes in advanced class. Usually, I don't tell beginners. Well, too bad. that's for the advanced students. The advanced student's supposed to know. And that distinction, again, that's something that is very important for anyone who is learning to understand. What we have at the beginning, what in my classes, what I ask of a beginning student is not the same as what I ask of someone who's been in class with me for a while and has developed some skills. My expectation changes. I don't expect this person to understand anything I'm talking about. I have to explain them. I have to tell them. That's my job. I'm the teacher, right? This person over here, I've already explained a lot of things. This person's supposed to know. Now, being hypercritical, I talked about that as well. No, hypercritical doesn't help anybody. It's a disservice to the student. It doesn't give the student anything to build on. And part of what we want out of our classes is something to build on. For pushing the mountain, we have Qigong practice that we're working. Breathe in, breathe out. We also have some strength building as we push. That idea that this is feet about shoulder width apart again. Back to that very first. Feet about shoulder width apart. This time, the hands come up along both sides of the body and press down along both sides. As they come up again, chest high, turn over, and push out. Notice the heels of my hands are set. It's not this, it's here. It's push. What I'm pushing against is here. It's not here. Push. The elbow has to drop down. The wrist sets, and the hands pull back. There's tension here. This pulls back. As we push out, the same kind of coordination that we have at the beginning. Breathe in, breathe out, right? Breathe in, breathe out. That connection through the movement makes a difference for what we are doing in the movement and for the circulation of the inner breath. As we're pushing out, I've talked about this just a little bit, the center and the palm of the hands, the Laogong, pushes out as well. The back pulls up all the way through the spine so that, no, right? Bend the knees. This sinks down. The abdomen and the middle back need to hold well so that as you push, there's strength in both arms. The push doesn't come from the arm. The push comes from here, in the back, and through the legs. This movement, pushing the mountain, uses a horse stance. Most anybody who trains, and this is fundamental stuff again, anybody who trains learns what a horse stance is. Mabu. Horse stance. Ma, horse, bu, step, stand, mabu. Being able to find that position, to hold it, and to use it is something that every martial arts system that I have ever seen, and I've seen quite a lot, uses. The way that it's done, the particular this, the particular that, the measurements and how it's, how you set it up, it may be a little bit different, right? How you find it. Feet together, open 1, open the heels 2, open the toes 3, open the heels 4, open the toes. There you are. That's it. That's how you find your stance. Okay? So the width of my stance depends on my legs. It also depends on the strength that I have to be able to sustain while I'm there. So this is a decent horse stance. It's all right. So is this. This one's a little better. This one's fine. Knowing that both of those are okay is something that the student needs to pay attention to as they're beginning and as they're developing, right? So I'm a beginning student. This is my stance right here. That's it. That's pretty much going to be it. I don't have the strength. At the beginning, I don't have the strength. I don't have the body placement, and I don't have the ability to hold here. It's not going to happen. Asking someone to do something that is not going to happen? No. Step by step, and I talked about this before. As we develop our skills, the body develops the strength, the body develops the energy, and we develop the ability to do more. If we start out trying, we start out trying to do something that belongs in advanced class, it won't work out well, and we will have missed all of the foundation work that supports whatever we're doing in the advanced class. I'm going to talk about this real quick, and then we need to practice. Many years ago, I met a gentleman who had studied some Tai Chi and saw what I was doing with Wudang Tai Chi in competition, and he wanted to learn. It's like, yeah, that's a great form. I like that form. Would you teach me that form? I said, sure, no problem. He said, we'll work out the time, and yeah, sure. I started working with him and discovered that he couldn't stand. This was a problem for him. He said he had a couple of medical issues that made it difficult. And I said, well, how can you overcome those difficulties? Because this is something that's required. You have to be able to stand. You have to be able to use your, you have to be able to use your body placement, to use gravity. Right? You have to be able to use it, right? And you have to understand how you are extending up and down. If your feet are not well placed, you can't stand. If you can't stand, nothing else will connect. Now, I teach, and I'm going to say this real quick. I teach all of the Qigong sets sitting. So, someone who can't stand, they're in a chair. I teach Qigong for them too. And that sense of sinking and dropping into your root remains. It comes through the back and it comes through the lower spine into the hip. And the hip sets into the chair in the same way as the feet need to set into the floor. That sense of being rooted has to be part of what we're doing in practice. It has to be there. There's no strength without it. There's no As Huang Wenlin taught me, strength comes from your root. If you don't have that connection through and you're not grounded, you have no root. You're floating like duckweed in a pond, and there's no possibility of connecting. The strength, the chi, the energy, it all depends on being grounded, being connected, being well rooted. Many other dependencies as well, right? But those are key to everything that we do. In pushing the mountain, this idea of being well rooted, I've got my feet about shoulder width apart. As I sink, and I'm just going to sink into my legs, as I sink down, I, of necessity, have to keep my balance. I have to keep my feet well placed. I have to keep my back up. And I have to use my legs. I have to sit just a little bit behind in order to do this. You have to go behind, right? So if I drop straight down, I can't go much beyond this. Notice where my hip and my heel, right? So this side over here. Hip, heel, straight line. It goes up. It goes back there. More practice. Okay, so I'm right here. I have to set my hip back just a little bit more in order to be able to go down. It's physics. It's body mechanics. If I don't set my hip back, I have to lean forward and stick my butt out, and that doesn't work. In a wider stance, the same holds true. The legs open, the hip has to set back. All of this has to pull up, pull in and up to hold the hips and let the legs work. So the torso is supported by the muscles in the torso, not by the legs. The legs do the work of bending and lifting. As we pay attention to the movements, we also need to pay attention to the breath. So for pushing the mountain, as we breathe in, both hands come up, both sides of the body chest high, and turn over and press down. This is a small heavenly circle. Second time, pull up, hands turn over to push out. Set the wrist, push out. Keep the elbows down, set the wrist. Sink, pay attention to the back, pull in, and press down. Sink. Nice and easy, and breathe in again. Breathe out. Breathe in. Pull up. Hands turn over. Set the wrist. Push out. Open the back. Breathe. Sink down. Keep going. One more time. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold through the back. Keep the hips up. And push. And pull in. Hands, hands down along both sides. Pull up through the crown of the head. Raise the heels and lower. Stay there. Breathe in. Breathe out. The raising and lowering, the cycle of the breath, I talked about that a little bit in the first class. This idea is to help the chi circulate through the large heavenly circle. As we pull up, everything pulls up through the back, and drop everything down through the front. That lowering, little bit of a bounce is okay. It shouldn't be deliberately hard. Notice I bent my knees when I came down hard. It's a good thing. The idea of circulating the chi through the whole body, this large heavenly circle, is a big part of what we're paying attention to in this set. Press down through the heels, pull up. The entire body gets involved with this movement. As we're pushing out with the breath, as we're pushing out, we want the sense of breathing out through that push. The lao bone, center of the palm, should feel warm, as if it too could exhale and inhale. That sense of connecting to the inner breath, the chi, which is what flows through the points, the channels, the meridians, is what we want to develop, so that as we're paying attention to the physical breath, breathe in, breathe out, we're also paying attention to the inner breath and the patterns that we're using to circulate the chi inside. I talked about this a lot in the first class, that what I'm doing in some of these movements is not visible. It's not. You see me do, breathe in, both hands up, breathe out, both hands pressed down. This is what you see, right? And push out, and pull back in. What you don't see is the pull. Actually, this, if I could grab your arm and I could pull, you'd feel it. Okay, guaranteed. Right here, pull in. Comes from here. Pull in. That sense of internal work is not visible. It's something that has to be demonstrated in some manner, and the student has to be able to understand whatever that is. So I gave an example just now. If I had your hand and I pull, you will feel it. You will understand instantly what I'm talking about. Shoulder sets down. Rib cage holds. Pull in through the abs, just below where the arm connects through the rib cage to the shoulder. Right, just below here. Drop the elbow and pull in right here. Okay. So set the arm. Muscles right through here are what we want to pay attention to. So I open the arm so you can see it. This is what we're paying attention to. Pull this in. This is all connected through here, through the back, down into the ribs. This is what's going to pull, right here, the lower Tantian. As I pull this in, I'm going to tighten all the muscles here. Pull in. That outward movement, that's the physical movement. That's actually what I do. What you see is this. I'll do it again. That's what you see. You didn't see me do all the you didn't see me do all that litany of things that I just talked about. You didn't. You saw me push my arms out, pull my arms in, and push down. One of my advanced students would have seen smaller movements. Because that's why they got to be advanced students. It's possible. It has to be learned. It's not something that's, oh, all of a sudden I magically understand what just happened. There's physics, there's anatomy to be learned, there's the internal workmanship, there's the breath work that goes with. There are many layers that we develop as we're learning. That idea is something that I find very important, especially for beginning students to understand. I might introduce something that, what are we talking about? I talked about this in the first class. People come when I learn something. They come in and say, what is this Qigong stuff? Qigong? Qigong. Qigong? What? I don't know what to say. It's what? Qigong. I can't say that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Let me help you understand how to break that down, and it won't take very long at all. That idea that the student comes curious, interested, wanting to learn something, and the teacher offers a way to learn. This, maybe you don't want to learn this. Okay, that's fine. Not everybody wants to learn this. It's all right. I had many years when I was a little envious of some of my friends who practiced the external arts, because they could do these fancy moves and flying, spinning jump kicks and all kinds of wonderful things. And it took me a few years to realize that that wasn't something that I was ever going to be that good at. I could work at it. There's just lots of things that I could work at. I can do quite a bit, actually. But it wasn't something I was going to be really good at. But Tai Chi and the internal arts had a significant attraction for me. The layers, it wasn't just let's do some moves and we're going to do this. All these layers that I'm talking about now, where we begin to learn, we learn the physical movements, we pay attention to the, excuse me, we pay attention to the outer breath, we pay attention to the inner breath, we do go through all of the routines. All of those things had more of an appeal for me because they were layered, because there was going to be something more. There was always going to be something more. That's still true today. I've been practicing 40 years. It's still true today. That is what I looked at when I started. At what am I learning? What can I learn? What might I learn? Is there more? Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. That was something that I looked for as well. That is that all there is? And there's no more? That's it? Okay. Um, I found the history and the connection to traditional Chinese medicine to be fascinating. And I pursued that. I also looked at movements, how to do movements, what to do with that. In this session, and I'm going to wrap up here because my voice is not going to stay with me for much longer. I'm going to work on that. Excuse me. The development that I went through when I started, as I developed, as I kept going, is something that matters, I think, for every student because it's something that appears or not, and it's part of, it comes from what you decide to learn. That's what I was talking about. I decided to learn Tai Chi because I kept finding more layers, more to learn. There was something more that I could still learn, that I could still develop. And as I learned the other arts, Bagua, Xingyi, sword, Qigong, I found those layers fascinating. I would always have something else to explore. That is part of what I wanted. I also wanted to be able to achieve a level. I'm competitive. I've been competitive since I was a little kid. I wanted to achieve a level. I wanted to have a clear idea, a clear measure of how my practice stacks up for myself as well as against other people. I did pretty good. That was something, again, I'm going back to this idea that we're beginning students. As we start out, what do we want? I wanted to go to competition as a beginner. I did. I did. I liked competition. I was like, there's competition, I can go to competition. All right, that'd be good. I can do that. It was not at all what I expected, but I learned. And that was something that I talked about at the beginning of this class. When I very first started, the idea of learning the names of the movements. Now, just show me the move. I'll do it. Show me the move. It wasn't clear to me how important those names are. I had to learn that. I did. And I did learn it. That is something that I'm passing on. It is important to know the names. It's also important to understand how those names help us to develop the foundations in the arts. Which movements are basic? Which movements are fundamental? Which movements are more advanced? Which movements require more skill? Which movements help us to develop which skills? First movement in Wudang Qigong. Basic placement, balance, posture, position, small heavenly circle. Coordination, breathing in and out. We use all of that in set 2. We use it. It's the expectation. You learned it over here. Now we're going to use it. Now we're going to put more layers on top of it. That progression was something that fascinated me when I first started learning. It fascinates me to this day. My hope is that by explaining that and giving the new student that bit of information, that there's more, there's layers, and we develop them over time. That bit of information, I would hope, is encouraging and gives the person a sense of curiosity. What's next? Right? Thank you for being here with me today. I will be back tomorrow. Teacher session, same move, pushing the mountain, Tui Shangon. Sunday, I'll be here with philosophy class. Thank you. Bye.